She was married. She was a believer. She was committed to her church, but she was also unhappy. And that's when the narcissist found her. Not in a club, not online, but in her church. He was charming, charismatic, spiritually gifted, and he told her everything her broken heart wanted to hear. She thought he was her way out, but he was really a trap. This is part 6 of the Unmasking Narcissism series, and today we're pulling the veil off a tactic that is wrecking the lives of countless women, narcissists hiding in the church. But before we dive in, do me a favor, like, subscribe, and share this video right now, because this story needs to reach the women who are silently slipping into spiritual traps disguised as love stories. I want you to know that this is a true story, not my story, but one that I witnessed very closely. She was in a dry marriage, no intimacy, no joy, no connection. She prayed, she served, she waited. But somewhere along the way, loneliness opened a door, and then she met him. He wasn't her husband. He was actually married himself, a man in her own church. But he noticed her. He listened to her. He called her beautiful when she hadn't heard that in years. And he wasn't reckless. He was intentional. He said things like, God told me you weren't meant to be with someone who sees you, who doesn't see you. Your husband doesn't cover you the way a real man should. We're soulmates, he said, and I can feel it in my spirit. She started to believe him. And when she told me about him, she actually said, I finally feel alive again. Within months of that relationship, she divorced her husband. But the man that she thought was sent by God, he discarded her the moment she became available, blocked her, and moved on, returned back to his wife. And she was left with ashes of her marriage, her dignity, and her sense of worth. Let me tell you what was really happening behind the scenes. That man was not sent by God. He was assigned by the enemy. Narcissists are spiritual opportunists. They target women who are emotionally depleted, spiritually dry, hungry for validation, tired of praying with no response. Instead of surrendering to God in their wilderness season, they become vulnerable to counterfeit connections. They meet you in a moment of weakness and make themselves look like an answered prayer. The narcissist will weaponize spiritual language. They will say, God told me you were my wife. We were together in another lifetime. This feels like divine alignment, but the fruit is confusion, secrecy, lust, and double-mindedness. Matthew 7 verse 15 says, beware of false prophets who come to you in sheep's clothing. They come looking like shepherds, but they devour like wolves. If you're watching this and wondering if you're being targeted, here are 6 red flags to look for. They spiritualize everything fast. They rush the connection and try to tie God to it before you've had time to test the fruit. They position themselves as your rescue. They capitalize on your pain and position themselves as the solution. They undermine your current commitments. They convince you your spouse, your pastor, or your spiritual community doesn't really understand you. They build emotional dependency. You start turning to them more than you turn to God. And they isolate you spiritually. They subtly cut you off from healthy voices so that theirs is the only voice that you trust. You don't even trust your friends anymore. And 6, they mix seduction with scripture. They might send you Bible verses followed by flirtations or sexually suggestive messages. That's not God. That's witchcraft in a tuxedo. This type of spiritual abuse is especially dangerous for Christian women because we're taught to be loyal. We're taught to be forgiving. We're taught to submit even when it's manipulation. We confuse charisma with calling, and we associate intensity with intimacy. So when a narcissist appears with spiritual language and emotional intensity, we think this must be from God. But God never contradicts his own character to give you what your flesh desires. The most painful part was she was hurt, not just by the man, but by the church. Because when everything fell apart, the same people who watched it happen, they turned silent. She felt discarded. She felt judged, unseen, even by those who claim to walk in truth. And let me say this. If you've been hurt by someone in the church, you are not an enemy of God. You are a target of the enemy through someone pretending to represent him. And I want you to know that there is healing for you, not just from the relationship, but from the spiritual trauma that came with it. But thankfully, she eventually rebuilt her life. It did take time. It took prayer. It took some coaching. And it took unlearning every lie that she believed about love, God, and herself. And she told me something that I'll never forget. I thought he ruined me, but God used it to rebuild the version of me that I was too broken to imagine. You may have fallen for the lie, but you don't have to stay in the fallout. If this is your story, if you feel ashamed, silenced, stuck, or spiritually broken, I want to talk to you right now. As a Christian life purpose coach, I help women to recover from spiritual deception, to heal identity wounds, to restore their clarity and purpose, and to rebuild their life with God at the center. You don't have to do this alone. Book your free clarity call today. The link is in this description. And listen, I want you to comment, God is restoring my voice, if this word was for you. Make sure to like, subscribe, and share, because part 7, we are going deeper into what it really means to resist the enemy by going no contact. You're not disobedient for protecting your peace. You're being delivered. And I'll see you in the next episode, my Purpose Warriors.